also teach at the Faculty of Planning, primarily with the housing program and the infrastructure program executive pursuit. From IIT Kharagpur, Ganesh has worked on various large-scale public projects in the field of urban planning and urban design. He has consistently led a team of planners and delivered statutory and non-statutory projects for various urban authorities in India. Significant projects include development plan for Ahmedabad 2021, local area plan for transit-oriented development for Ahmedabad, town planning schemes at Nagpur, master plans for Mumbai Eastern Waterfront, and the Pune River rejuvenation projects. That's a brief profile of both as vast, much more. Fact, we have tried to keep it brief. Let me also have the pleasure of introducing Mr. Dhruv Patel, who is the Vice President of Red Gujarat and was the immediate past President of the Red Ahmedabad Field. Dhruv Patel is a second-generation entrepreneur whose academic background includes a post-graduation in international marketing management from Middlesex University, London, and family business program from the prestigious Harvard University. As the managing director of Sri Ami Corporation, Ahmedabad's oldest and first organized real estate firm since 1960, Dhruv has overseen the development of over 40 projects, covering more than 5 million square foot of real estate across 21 areas in the state. He is also managing partner of EMW Strategies, a strategic investment platform focused on delivering high-yield real estate. In addition to this, he also heads the Diamond Textile Mills Private Limited, a 40-year-old company focused on trading and exporting textile products, with a global presence of over 30 countries. In addition to that, he is also involved in many institutional bodies, like he is an ex-IIT committee member in the Policy Advocacy Committee of CII. He is also with the Real Estate Committee, Gujarat Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And in addition to that, I think his interests are in sports also, with builders and cricket. Professor Sindal Patel, she is a long-time faculty member at the Faculty of Planning, but had multiple roles. She is currently heading not just the housing program at the Faculty of Planning, but she also had the SEP International Office, as a part of which she is involved with doing this collaboration with various other international organizations and universities. She has engaged in academics, professional practice and research in areas of housing policy projects, urban planning and legislation, urban regeneration and gentrification, and participated in urban governance. Her PhD is from the University of Twente, and she also has a master's in planning from SEP University. She is also part of the high-level committee for urbanization for the state of Gujarat. She has engaged with national, state and local governments, multilateral agencies, civil society organizations for research and for other sorts of projects. Of course, I cannot trace a long list of subjects that she teaches and not get into that, but as a part of this international exchange, she has been instrumental in developing collaborations with Sri Lanka, Thailand, Bhutan, with Cardiff, in China and Kenya. She is also been kind of trying to develop collaborations with Australia, China, France, Italy, Spain, and Kenya in various disciplines of human habitat studies. For people who don't know about SEP, SEP is a primary habitat university, and we offer degrees in urban planning, primarily at the Faculty of Planning, with various specializations, one of which is on housing, And when we say housing, it looks at various kinds of asset classes that have to do with real estate. Apart from that, there are other faculties, except there is the faculty of technology, which is equivalent and looks at engineering or at art, considered at art as engineering. Then there is the faculty of management, faculty of design, and what we call as the faculty of architecture, which is the oldest faculty that we have. So the faculty of planning at university has just completed 3 years back, it's 50 years. So the program itself is almost 50 years old. That is in brief about SEP. I also teach at SEP. My background is in social work and urban planning. I'm interested in social issues of our cities and look at participation and community development issues of cities. So without any further this thing, the way we have organized this session, the primary basis of this or the intent of this session, and ITC, let me also take this opportunity to thank ITC as well as Landstat, because they gave this opportunity for us to kind of present what is known as the Gujarat model of doing town planning schemes. So town planning schemes is an instrument that is widely used in the state of Maharashtra and the state of Gujarat. And it has its pros and cons. The whole idea is to discuss that tool of urban planning, town planning schemes primarily, and its second successor, what we call as LAPs, local area plans. So we will discuss that briefly, and we are going to kind of dissect what do these tools mean and can they be adopted to other contexts. That is the whole purpose of this session. So let me begin by inviting Ganesh to take ahead the discussion he will be sharing primarily the LKPs, local area plans and their experience, which has begun post 2014.
Hello, yeah. How many? 10 minutes? It's a large presentation, but very quickly I'll run through the local area plan concept. So, which we prepared for the one of the LAP in Ahmedabad. It was the first of its kind for Ahmedabad LAP. So, it's a CBD, what we call. We will run through some of these slides. The first step was we identified in our development plan, which was prepared in 2012-13, this central part of the Ahmedabad. It's very tiny area, 1.25 square kilometer, 125 hectare area, as a CBD of the city, central business district, because of the multiple reasons, like most of the public transit systems are crossing here, so having a great connectivity. Riverfront is just across. And this is the central part of the city where already the commercial activities are significant. Something similar like Seoul, where the most of the transit systems are coming together, and that becomes a real high density development, and that was the objective of the exercise. So in development plan, it was declared as a CBD with 5.4 FSI, but having a higher FSI is very easy, isn't it? But making that realize on ground with a high density development is the challenge for the city. So how to do that, how to realize that higher FSI was the challenge. So authority took this challenge, and this is the current CBD area in current situation. So you can see, though it was 1.8 FSI was permissible in this area, the gross consumption was just 1 FSI. And around 12 lakh square meter built up was there. In current scenario, 22% was in public domain, that means streets and public gardens, and 25% in a building footprint. We want to improve this area as per the proposal of 5.4. That means 5.4 is a net FSI, gross FSI becomes 4.2. The built-up area will increase, but in order to take care of that kind of density, we also need to increase the area under public domain, 22 to 40, and also area under the building footprint, up to 50%, which can allow the consumption, actual consumption of 5.4 FSI, otherwise it is not consumable. So one of the options is like, let's clean the whole sled, except the most important or religious structures, and then have grid kind of structures, street network, and the development. But is it possible in India? It's a scenario, I am not proposing it. It's not possible in Indian context because of so many complexities in our case. So first of all, we need to respect the property rights. They should be fair. Whatever we propose, it should be fair and desirable because there are multiple landowners. It should be financially viable for the developer because he is going to come and build that building and then sell to the multiple dwelling units. It should be viable for the authority so that the revenue model should also be there, which will ensure that all the physical infrastructure improvement happens. It should be legally implementable. It's nothing illegal what we are trying to propose. And the most importantly, it should make our cities more livable and productive for ordinary people, those who are currently owning that land or those who will be coming here and residing in this area. So this is the Indian constraints, I would say, which we need to follow. And this is the model what we adopted. So I am not going into all the case studies and all that part of it due to the time constraints. I'll just show you how we went ahead to prepare this LAP 10 years back. So our proposals were like this. This is the current scenario of the LAP, okay, CBD area. This particular red boundary is 125 hectare of the land. In this, 22% is under the street network. Let's take one block of it. So this is that block in which you can see there are private plots and so many buildings. Backside you can see blue area which is riverfront and the Ashram road, main road which is passing in the middle. This area, this particular block is 1100 meter. It's not walkable. In planning urban design we say at least 100 by 100 block size is a walkable block, right? But this is much more larger than that. So in order to deal with this, we said okay, we need to widen some of the existing streets and we need to add some more streets. So the block is broken, so you get some moderate size of blocks. Even the placement of the new street is very strategic, where half of the street is taken from the one plot and half of the street is taken from the another plot. But this is not forceful. We are not going to bulldoze these buildings. What we are saying, when this guy comes for the redevelopment, he leaves that much of area on the road widening as well as the new road right of way. And then he gets that 5.4 FSI consumable on the remaining plot. Similarly, when this guy comes for the redevelopment, then the entire ROW is open for the people to walk or drive, and he can also accommodate 5.4. So this is the chronologically happening redevelopment as per the market demand, and the public domain will keep increasing in this area. When that happens, this becomes the revised layout of the street network. So you got 3 blocks out of 1. These are the final plots in a way. By doing that, we have achieved 22% to 40%. So most important thing is when we are increasing FSI, more people will be living there, more people will be coming for the employment, to walk, to travel, to have the underground infrastructure, everything. You need more amount of space for the public right of ways and streets. And that's how we will be able to increase the public right of way without any forceful actions. Now coming to the second part of it. As I mentioned, these are the road side margins, setbacks, which will be again widening, and this will be a part of the road only. Okay? After leaving that, only the internal setbacks will be allowed. So there is no requirement of roadside margin. We have already taken that into a road right of way. So open front margin is not necessary. It already has become a road right of way. Internally, where 2 plots are coming together, 6 meter fixed margin we have identified, and after leaving that, that becomes his complete ground coverage. So except the internal margins, setbacks, no other requirement of common plot, on-ground parking, green space, amenity, nothing. Because we want him to utilize the full coverage so that then only the 5.4 FSI can be consumable. If you reduce the ground coverage, definitely that guy has to go very tall. This area has a limitation of the 70 meter as per airport authority, and then he will not be able to consume the 4 FSI. Or to consume the 4 FSI, that guy need to go much more taller, which will increase the cost of the building, which will become unaffordable also. Now next regulation is about the volumetric guidelines. As per the volumetric guidelines, we are just defining the envelopes. This is hollow box in which he can actually consume the full 5.4 FSI. For all plots, as per airport authority, 70 meter is permissible. This is the envelope. When anybody consumes 5.4 FSI, as per the complete slab, complete ground coverage, then this grey area becomes the 5.4. And the rest of the area is still available. But you understand, no architect will design a building like this, a complete slab like this. So this gives a flexibility for architects and designers to design a building very efficiently and also make this kind of building forms. So definitely buildings will not be like this. This is just a calculation method. Buildings will be like this. So better carved areas will be possible. Light and ventilation also will work better. And this is how the new area may come up with 5.4 FSI. Now ensuring coherent urban form. With this kind of development, we are saying very few regulations which will ensure the urban design guidelines to create a harmonious urban character. One is built to line. So up to 15 meters there should be built to line. The building should reach on that, should be built on that line up to 15 meters. Above that, if the designer wants, he can continue or they can have a step back also. So that's flexible. Second, looking at the harsh climate, point number one. And secondly, we want to increase the public domain also. We can have arcades along the main street at least. And this will also improve the value of the ground floor and first floor because there will be continuous pedestrian rail. So shops, active front will be possible with this regulation. And we have very good examples. This is Mumbai, Balad State. And all these buildings are designed and constructed by different architects and engineers, but still they come together and create harmonious arcades. So something like this we can learn and bring here. This is again Balad State. You can see two different buildings. There are no compound walls, no setbacks, no margins, but still these buildings are very much safe and sound. Somebody might think when you remove the front margin and there is no compound wall, there might be issue of privacy. But you can observe the windows are above the eye level. That way also you can maintain the privacy. So architects will find the solution for these type of buildings. Right? Now coming to the traffic aspect. So what we thought of, along the major streets, wider arterial area, arterial streets, we may avoid having entries. And the entries can be permitted for the secondary streets. So this will ensure the high speed movement of the traffic on main road. Secondly, this will also not disturb the pedestrian movement very frequently. We might have observed that there are always bungalows or some properties and every 15-20 meters there will be, the footpath will be going down and up and down and up. So that creates uncomfortable pedestrian movement, unsafe pedestrian movements. So we wanted to avoid that. And lastly, the most important aspect is about the resources. So as we said, this is 5.4 permissible, this is maximum permissible, but in that 1.8 was the base FSI. That means as per the previous DP of 2001, this base FSI was permissible free of charge. Addition to that, this development right, authority will be charging for that, which is 3.6 FSI. So that will create a revenue to the authority in a total redevelopment scenario. Apart from that, if some property don't want to redevelop, then they can sell the development right to the neighbor, but he has to utilize within the permissible envelope. And that's Vallabh Southern building and they can sell across. So that way you are ensuring the permissible FSI, you are ensuring the density within the LLP also, so that the infrastructure can take care of it. Let's add it up. So this is the block which I showed you. The surrounding area might get redeveloped like this. This is scenario. Definitely the architect will design a different type of building, but this is just a scenario, and that's how this current area might get transformed. So instead of having a bulldozed scenario or clean slate scenario, we can go with this kind of very sensitive Indianized approach for the redevelopment. We prepared not only this kind of graphical map, which I showed you just for the understanding purpose, we actually prepared all the detailed maps accordingly, which are the statutory form of it. So let's take that same block. First of all, we did a topographical survey of the entire area so that we can understand where are the buildings, where are the compound walls, where are the streets, everything. I'll rotate it for our understanding. So this is the same block, so we identified few streets. This is road right of way and road widening also, and these are the plots. Inside the plot you can see green number and red number. So green number is the original number before deduction and red number is the after deduction. These are the setbacks on back side, and these are the urban design guidelines of vehicle line, arcade, no vehicular entry, etc. So that the urban character is also ensured. So we prepared a whole DCR drawings for both the CBDs in the middle. And not only we prepared the DCR drawings and the regulatory book along with that, we also try to visualize and explain to people how this area might look like. So this is the existing photograph, side photograph. Again on right side you see the same block, and once, maybe after 5 years, the metro will come there. So earlier there was a plan that the metro will come on Ashram Road, but now it is already implemented just parallel to that there is a railway, so metro is already implemented. But this is the visualization. In 5 years maybe metro will be realized. 1 or 2 buildings will get redeveloped. The street design and implementation will happen. Few more people you will see on the street. Few more buildings will come up. The landscape will grow. And gradually you will see that the CBD or the redevelopment side will realize its vision. Yeah. So that's it. I'll stop at this point. I think I need to be in time. Thank you so much. If you have any question, we will definitely talk about it. Thank you.
I would now request to give his key points.
Good morning. Thank you, Professor Ravi, for inviting me to this interesting session. Why interesting? For the reason is that if we see urban planning that has come up in the state and the city until now, say after 1960. Yes, Gujarat is one of the only few states where TP scheme mechanism or local area planning methodology exists even today. Handful of states are there, and we are fortunate we are at the forefront of that. But until now, what we have seen, the kind of development that we have seen, though it is organized, but there is a lot of scope in terms of improvising to make it really world class. Until now, planners would visualize how the city has to be planned, what kind of infrastructure has to be in place. Academians and visionaries would give their inputs on what is an ideal scenario of having a city, a developed city, the way Ganeshji explained. But what was missing and what has changed now is that a developer, I come here as a developer representing TEDI, the practical implications on what has been planned and what is the resultant outcome. Because these guidelines, the plans, the zonings, the infrastructure, which was put on paper with the thought process, we are the ones who implement it. Now during the implementation, with the change of time, in the change of preferences, there are a lot of improvisations that are required for urban planning and town planning mechanisms. And we are fortunate, we are in a happy time that the government and the authorities also do appreciate that all the stakeholders have to come together to plan, to execute and monitor, to improvise. If I may give you a few examples, ideal one and what is happening in Ahmedabad as a very small example. There is an area called Shilaj, where the ring road passes by. This ring road was planned in Auda. It's a 83 kilometer or 86 odd kilometer road which was planned and around 20 years back. Executed well, and it is, we can say, a lifeline of the city of Ahmedabad. So that thought process was very good. Now, with time, the usage of the road, the infrastructure development, the city development around it happened, and the traffic management or the infrastructure went crowded. I live nearby that area, so I can say in 2012 or 13, around 10-12 years back, there was a railway bridge being built near the Amli crossing at the station. Now that bridge ended exactly 100 meters before the roundabout. So it went on till there was a certain level of traffic, certain level of occupancy in the terms of development that happened around that area. And in the last 5 years, there was a RAX zone declared around 8 or 9 odd years back for urban housing, for affordable housing. And that was a very well thought formula, but what happened is a rapid development. Now, this RAX area was not planned when this entire ring road was planned or it was put on paper. What happened? Suddenly the traffic, it was a chaos in short. Now, 6 years back, on the same railway line, from Paltej area to Shilar, another bridge was planned and executed, and it opened up post COVID. So it is not even 3 years that it is coming to existence. It reaches the same crossroads, but the bridge ends 300 meters before. Now, imagine a scenario where a resident of that area, we as developers who plan and build around that environment, and local area planners or the authorities were together and working as a whole, that we would have suggested what is happening right now. We are seeing that bridge being extended right now. So in three parts, in 12 years, 3 bridges. First bridge, that could not be implemented. In the second leg, it could not be, and here is the third leg. So it's a not only waste of time, resource, energy, and a chaos for the people, but if urban planners, developers, visionaries, and authorities come together, which we are seeing now, this could have been done from day one, and it would be a massive change in terms of the overall development of that area. This is a very small example. In 2005, I went to Beijing for a technical visit, and my hotel was near the Tiananmen Square, which is the main square of China. And it was on the corner of the road, there was a bridge. So in the evening, I went just for a walk. And I was standing in center of the bridge, and I could see 10 lanes each side, then 2 pedestrian and 2-wheeler lanes, then margin, and then the buildings. Something what we saw in your presentation. This was 2005-2006. So I was asking the translator who was with us, when was this road built? He said this road was built in 94-95, when the early 90s, when the China's urban revolution or the city economy started. And we could not see even one car in one lane. So not together you cannot see 10 cars. And today it was bumper to bumper. You could not, in the evening you will see just red dot lines. So this is a vision clubbed with the planning and the practical aspects that we need to foresee and plan together. But unfortunately today in India everything happens need-based. So yesterday I was sitting with DP Desai sir, and we as CREDA have proposed an ideal town planning scheme which we as developers feel should be implemented, and we have asked for one scheme to be allotted to us. They will implement, but as per what our idea and urban planning and expert like yours will consult together, but all the stakeholders have to come together and plan and foresee next 15-20 years that what this would bring on the table when the entire area as per the plan, whether it's an affordable zone and whether it's a commercial CBD or a residential zone, what effect would it have on the entire area. So, though I am satisfied in the way the city is developing, but there is much more that can be done. Another thing I was talking was there are, I just read in the newspaper, Ahmedabad Municipal Corporation is putting up, revamping, not putting up, revamping 94 cross junctions in the city of Ahmedabad. This is in line with the Commonwealth Games or the international level infrastructure and sports events that are foreseen in the near few years in India or Ahmedabad. So 94 junctions are being reworked. So I was talking to the authority that every road section or every footpath, depending on the width of the road, has to be a standard size in the LAP only. So whenever that size of road has been planned, that cross section remains the same, and we can have one feel of the entire city that we can have those of the lines that we see in developed countries. But what is happening is, this is done by corporation, this is done by AUDA. These two TP schemes are done by this consultant. Another two TP schemes are done by different architects. And of course they will try and put in their best. But then that single language, some basic to-do and not to-do list of certain principles which a city should have, looking at its demographic, looking at the population and the way, say, urban transport is being planned. This thing is missing. Another small thing that we were discussing, why I am talking, also it is about the subject, and we as developers build buildings, but then the entire ecosystem benefits or suffers. So we are all stakeholders in that terms, though we are the last leg of the executions after all this is planned. So there was one road that we were planning. The ring road comes under AUDA. The SC road comes under central government. The crossroads comes under the corporation, which was the old limit. Now you want to do expansion, or you want to do a bridge, or you want to allot some budget for that area to come up. Who will spend? Who will take the calls and who will integrate it? Now this is again an urban issue. So we were discussing with some other senior developers and authorities that the central government has a Ministry of Cooperation. In the same manner, we should have a central committee of urban planners, where all the stakeholders have to be together, and when expert like you all plan something, then whose authority it is and what effect would it have on the other would be taken care of on day one, planned and phased out in terms of whatever development is foreseen and developed. What happens right now, if we see, is that there is a bridge coming up near Karnavati Club, and that road is now blocked. Now the next road, the entire traffic obviously will be jammed there. So there is a waiting of 1 hour, 45 minutes to 1 hour daily commute going and coming, which was 10 minutes because my office also passes through that area. So all these things, if they can be in cooperation and planned and executed together, then we will actually see what we want to see, or we want to show the world now, I would say. In the next few days, we'll see Commonwealth being awarded to us, and we are expecting hosting the Olympics, right? How can we do that if everybody does not come together and plan from day one and foresee at least 15 to 20 years ahead? So I think as a developer, these are the points for the local area and urban planning where we can also play a role to make it better. I just wanted to share. Thank you.
Thank you. I request Professor Sajan to please.
Just to sort of connect on this course, we were looking at in this discussion as Professor
Use the microphone.
As Professor Ravi mentioned, what are the ways through which, what are the instruments and mechanisms through which we are looking at delivery of service land to the markets in the process of peripheral expansion and also in the process of internal urban renewal. And local area planning is one of those instruments through which it is being done. And Mr. Iyer talked about the larger framework within which local area planning is done. And also Mr. Patel talked about how as developers, even while this is visualized in the process of implementation, what are the sort of issues in realization of some of these visions? And how could we, while we are implementing it, how could we sort of address those moving forward so that we can better realize some of the larger vision of urban renewal and peripheral expansion. I would like to take this forward to talk about another instrument through which redevelopment is being done in Gujarat, and this is all through policy-led redevelopment. And this is redevelopment of largely urban poor housing, informal settlements, public housing as well as private housing, and done through the markets. And slightly different from the larger local area plan-led redevelopment to more policy-led site-level redevelopment. So 4-5 aspects that I will talk about. What are the imperatives for creative redevelopment in our cities? What are the repertoires or mechanisms of redevelopment at different scales? And what has been the experience? I'll talk about this one specific particular policy and its experience of redevelopment. And then also transferable development right, which has been used as a mechanism to enable redevelopment, TDR. And what has been its experience? The imperatives for redevelopment are well established. It enables local economic development done through the markets, developers, and it also ensures delivery of decent housing and optimal utilization of well-serviced land in the core area of the city. Now for our cities, this is important because we are aspiring, as Mr. Patel mentioned, through our larger vision, the state of Gujarat is aspiring to be a $1 trillion economy. And while it aspires to reach there, there is also a vision to take along about 15% of the people who are poor and living in different type of housing inadequacies, to also take them along. And this can be done through the redevelopment as one of the mechanisms that we can sort of, how can we deliver. They typically occupy 5 to 6% of the land in the cities. And how can this well-serviced core area, the cities with average low FSI, how can this be unlocked and through redevelopment as a mechanism, and how this can be done by leveraging the private sector participation. Now this is one stage where we are actually using a repertoire or different mechanisms for redevelopment. So Mr. Ivan talked in the beginning, how do we do redevelopment at a local area level through planning instruments. So local area plan is actually a planning instrument as part of our town planning act. Then at a precinct scale, which is slightly smaller than a local area, we are also doing this through projects. Different types of projects where we have redevelopment of bus terminals, railway stations, all of that. And the idea is, the key thing we are talking in this conference is how are we optimizing land and development. And so here also the focus is what are the different mechanisms through which we are doing it. Now, I will specifically talk about at the level of a housing society or a colony, how are we doing it. And here the state has introduced a range of housing policies for different type of housing conditions. And how the people who are living there can be given decent and better housing by the private sector through leveraging the value of the land on which such houses are situated. So these are all kinds of housing policies which have been introduced. in situ redevelopment of slums and public land, in situ redevelopment of public housing, private housing, and also slums and private land. So each of this is a different distinct policy, and out of this, some also use transferable development rights as a mechanism to enable the developers to be involved in the entire process. These are the specifics of the various redevelopment policies. What is interesting is that in the state, LAP is picking up, but at the same time, policy-led housing redevelopment is picking up very, very fast. And you see almost, if you look at the data, almost 10% of the investment in the sector is actually coming through redevelopment projects. And about 15% of the housing since the RERA started 2017, 2010 to 2023, about in that time, about 15% of the houses, the new housing flow is actually catered to redevelopment. The other thing is, it is not only limited to cities which are big four cities, but also other cities where, because of infrastructure provision, land values are increasing and land markets are increasing. It is also being implemented there. So we see it not limited to 4 cities, but actually 10 cities. And this is how we see it in different parts. Of course, Ahmedabad is the leader, and there are certain structural factors because of which Ahmedabad is leading, but also soon it's picking up in the other 3 cities. And Gujarat is a state which is not a private city state. Unlike Kolkata or West Bengal, where Kolkata is a private city, where 90% of the development is limited to that city. Here we have more distributed kind of pattern of urbanization. There is no primacy, but there are these 4 cities, but there are also a lot of tier 1 and tier 2 cities where infrastructure is being led, and as a result, land markets are increasing and hence redevelopment is also happening. If you look specifically to Ahmedabad, what you see here, the dots are in the core area, and along the transit-oriented zone, you see a range of different types of redevelopment that is already happening. There are slums being redeveloped, almost 43 slums, and about 25,000 houses redeveloped, and all through developers. So it is the well-meaning developers from the developer and the kind of ecosystem which has emerged, because of which the slums are being redeveloped. And they are typically, as you can see, they are in the core area of the city, typically occupying an FSI of 0.8 to 0.9. But the infrastructure provided there is almost corresponding to maybe 2.7 to 3. So the idea is also to unlock the value of that land and its potential. Similarly, public housing, about 12 public housing projects have been redeveloped, and 5,000 families have been given new house, again by the developers, and this is free because it is a rehabilitation project. Heritage houses are being retrofitted. Huge private housing redevelopment is also happening. 170 societies in different stages of redevelopment. And along with that, you also have railway stations, bus terminals, and as I said, many other redevelopment that is happening. And land being unlocked for optimal utilization. And the pace is continuing even in this year as we speak. Moving forward, if this is the rate at which we go, there is going to be even further scope of redevelopment, and about 54 square kilometer of underutilized land can actually be unlocked when the land under private housing societies and also slums and public housing can be unlocked just through this policy-led redevelopment. Now, what has been the key experiences? I'll just talk about one particular, which is slums. That how the urban poor, so how through private sector, the developers' participation, how is that leveraged for economic gain and inclusive development? How is livability of slums sites improved through redevelopment? And how can we scale this up to other cities? So here, we see these are the locations of the slums, about 58 sites, 68 sites actually, across the city which have been redeveloped, and about 45,000 families are in different stages of being delivered decent housing. And this has also led to generation of TDR, transferable development right, of about 2,000 crores. So developers are redeveloping the slums, giving decent housing to the slum dwellers on the same site. And against that, so I'll show you how this is actually done. And this is based on the principle of leveraging the value of land on which that site is situated, and get the private sector to participate and ensure delivery of decent housing for the urban poor. So this is the policy. Now, there are 3-4 accountability to the beneficiaries is the key thing. So the slum dwellers who are the beneficiaries first. How do we ensure accountability to them? So there is well-defined eligibility criteria, that who will get a house and what are the eligibility documents that they need to show. And Mahila Housing Trust, which is a NGO which has worked very closely with municipal corporations, they also work with urban poor in establishing the eligibility. New houses allotted by the developers to the slum dwellers on a draw basis, and ownership rights in women's name is issued. So it is also ensuring that there is an asset for women, creation of an economic asset for women, and it would be either on a sole or a joint basis. Now there are two bases through which all of this is done. A developer is awarded the project through competitive bidding. So what happens is, there are two situations. If the cost of rehabilitation to a developer on a slum site, if that cost is lower than the value of land which is available, it is called a case of positive premium, in which the developer will gives a premium on the freehold land which is left, and this is called a positive premium. Here the basis of the entire award of the work then is whoever offers the highest premium will be awarded the work. If the cost of rehabilitation of the slum dwellers, if that is lower, higher than the value of the land which is left, residual land which is called freehold land, then the gap between the two is what the developer will ask for as a viability gap funding in the form of transferable development rights. And whichever developer is seeking the lowest TDR will be awarded the work. So this is the basis of the entire bidding criteria, and out of the 68 slums which will be redeveloped, almost 95%, I think 90% are a case of negative premium. Now what you also see is the slum settlement gets divided into two parts. In one part you will see the slum rehabilitation structure, in the other part is a free-sale structure, which the developers can construct upon and sell in the market and recover the cost of rehabilitation. What is it that the developers get? What is it that the slum dwellers get? One house, which is about 1 bedroom hall kitchen house, which is about 35 square meter built-up area, that is given to them with fairly good specifications. It is given to them for free. Plus, there is operation and maintenance corpus, because now we are moving to a vertical structure. There will be monthly operation and maintenance costs. So that third, interim housing cost. From the day they are asked to vacate till the day they are given a key to the new house. Between that time, whatever is the rental cost, that is to be given by the developer. And the fourth is 7-year defect liability period. So that is all part of the developer's cost for rehabilitation. Against that, the developers, as I said, will get part of the land there. And if that is not enough to recover the cost, they will also ask for transferable development rights. Now, how do we see whether the kind of housing which is being given to the people is of good quality or not. Now we are continuously as academics, as Mr. Patel was also mentioning, we are constantly also looking at what is it that is promised in the technical specifications of the RFP documents. What are the technical specifications prescribed, and we go on the site and also see whether they are confirmed with it. And time to time there are evidences shown to say this is not working, that is not working, and an agile department also listens to these evidences and changes the specification. So this kind of ecosystem of trust and cooperation, which is what Mr. Patel also mentioned, is important for a well formulated and implemented policies. And this is constantly, there is an agility, an ecosystem of trust and cooperation between academics, NGOs, municipal corporation, as well as the community and developers. And through that we are able to continuously improve and incrementally improve the process as well as the SOPs, as we call it, the standard operating procedures. This is how you see some of the slums, how they have been redeveloped. Some of the sites which are like typically parking plus 7 structures, and amenities which are also given to them, which include your crash, your Anganwadis and many other things, and also all the infrastructure which would be there in any other apartment scheme. STPs, rainwater harvesting, rooftop solar panels, all of that is also, and firefighting system, all of that also would be part of the thing. Some sites have not worked. When it's a site which is very highly dense and people have been given rehabilitation in structures of P plus, parking plus 11 floors, it has not worked. And this has not really been conducive to people's overall, pursuit of livelihood as well. So this is something which is not working. O&M corpus is given by the developers. Currently it is not enough in the policy, and as a result, after a few years of occupancy, you see that the sites are beginning to be poorly occupied. So all the good work which is done into making good sites, it is actually losing because the O&M corpus is not adequate. If it is 10 times the prescribed amount in the policy, it will work. And we've done that to see that it is currently 250 rupees per square meter, it should be 250 rupees per square feet, essentially. Then it should work well. And it's not a big dent in terms of the developer's investment as well. So, similarly is the experience of public housing. I will not go into it. My key takeaways. What are the key takeaways? One, land in the core area of the city is being optimally utilized, and poor are being given decent housing through this policies. There is an agile government which is available to amend policy and SOP from time to time in response to what are evidences on the ground. Incrementally developed ecosystem of cooperation and trust between the key stakeholders, which is the state, local government, NGOs and community and developer. This is also ensuring from time to time that there is a better accountability to all the stakeholders. And viability of TDR, which is supported by DDCR and also land market. That is also because, as I said, most of the redevelopment projects are backed by transferable development rights. If TDR market was not viable, it would not have gained the kind of speed and acceleration that it has peaked right now. So it's one of the reasons is also the viability of TDR in the land market. And for the long-term benefits to be accrued to the beneficiary, maintenance criteria need to be clearly defined in the policy. So this is just my takeaways. I will not go into the details of what is the experience of TDR. Maybe that at a later stage. Yeah,
Thanks. a quick round of one or two broad questions where I want responses from all of you. What was? Yeah.
Questions?
We are opening for questions, but I want on two things, a quick response from the panelists in half a minute each. One was with respect to, because those issues got faced. One was, we think of TP as a better mechanism than land acquisition model, and rightly so. But this aspect of participation in the TP, I want to think that you already mentioned that developers participate in this process. How could they participate better? Similarly, all the stakeholders. On that, if there could be a quick response. And the second thing I want a quick response is this whole idea of, can these tools be better integrated? Because of integration came up in some of these. The different departments have come together, or the agile government. The government has made a business means that has to be a better coordination. So on that, if there is some response. So maybe we could be different.
Hello. So, in case of TP scheme or in case of local area plans, the participatory processes are as follows. So these are statutory provisions. So once the authority decides where the TP scheme or LAP that boundary is their decision is also discussed with the state and also published locally. And if people have any comment on that, for example, addition or deletion of some of the areas, that also can be, first of all, primarily taken care. Secondly, coming to the part of the proposals. So that process also goes through multiple rounds. So in case of TP schemes, we have to do a one-day owners meeting in which the conceptual proposals of the TP scheme are introduced to the people, what are the benefits, and how they are supposed to contribute to the TP scheme, or aspects are explained. Based on the preliminary discussions, the TP scheme is prepared, which we call as a draft TP scheme. Then the second round of detailed round of the consultation happens, which is called as a publication, in which for the entire 1 month the TP scheme or LLP is kept open. In which every landowner who is belonging to from that area will be allowed to understand the TP scheme, what is happening with this land, where the deduction are doing, where the streets or amenities are coming up, all those sorts of interventions in the TP scheme or local area plans are explained by that particular person, and they can definitely give the suggestions and objections. But currently, the scenario is like only landowners who are belonging to that area can take the objections. But I think what we have discussed till now, the developers are not currently in a game, because they will come in picture later on once the TP scheme is prepared, and then they will be the stakeholders. But I think there should be some sort of engagement, should be some sort of engagement with the developers who can also give them feedback at that draft publication stage as well. Then subsequently, that is the kind of improvement we need to do in this scheme or method. Then once the draft scheme is submitted to the state approves. That is the first round of preparation. After that, preliminary and the final TP scheme is prepared. So definitely both these mechanisms are very much inclusive in a way to get the feedback from the landowners. But there is always a scope for improvement for the other stakeholders, such as the developers, such as the subject expert, should also be able to talk about it, is always possible.
So, it's a very last question that all stakeholders have to come together. What we have been talking to the government is being inclusive. I would like to add upon in terms of what we build and how we can be integrated. I always say that developers are responsible for any image of a city that one can see. If we go to London or we go to the Manhattan of the world and we see the sea skyline which is being built by us, which has been thought and improvised and planned by planners. But we are the people who give the image or a memory of the image to the visitors. So if we get good flexibility in terms of how we can make our buildings. We saw this presentation, Ganeshji did that 15 meters of height, everybody has to maintain that margin, and he showed that Ballard Estate as well as the photo in his presentation. Today, our urban laws that we implement buildings based on the LAP and the zoning regulations, there are what can be done, what cannot be done. So the simplest example is margin. If the front margin is same, we see a even fabric of buildings and the lines that we see, and it changes the entire look of the city. Second, our current GDCR norms, based on what we have to build on the LAP, is so complex. So what we have proposed, and again coming into picture, that whenever this LAP is being planned and when the GDCR norms are being planned, you have to give us some freedom where we can have some architecture element or practical element or the look and feel that we appreciate when we go out of the world, that we can develop. Today, say for the smallest example, that a margin after that at 600 mm, so 2 feet of weather shade is available. Our entire elevation of the building has to be that, otherwise it is complicated. Now, even if we want to make beautiful buildings, LAP has a provision of say having same line. Today the margins are not the same, but if we all sit together and think that, see, this can be the look like a Ballard Estate, the example that we are talking right now. If this there is a 600 mm margin limitation, then it will all be plain bread and butter kind of thing. You will be limited with what you can do, where there is a lot of scope that we can do to it. So again, all the stakeholders have to come into play. We are just the enabler, we are just the builders. This can be done, this cannot be done, and we have to just do it. So we want an inclusive environment where every stakeholder is better equipped to give their reasoning and make the city better. So I think that is what I think.
I think they have answered the question. Policy-led redevelopment inclusion is partly there of the community through the process of NGOs, mediation and all. And also good ecosystem, as I said, of trust between well-being developers and communities, NGO and all of that. So it has been there, the ecosystem has built well. Hence this kind of transformation. Otherwise, such consensus building in such cases is very difficult without participation. I think between LAP and TPS has got a very, very good robust system of participation with landowners, and it has been well set protocol. LAP has struggled with, and there have been issues of participation, even with the landowners, and there have been opposition to that. And I think on that basis, there have been also a lot of delay, and I think in the first round, LAP were also maybe returned back by the state government to the Aula, because there were issues with the participation and not a transparent participation, maybe. Not deliberate, but maybe for various reasons. It was the first time that we Aula was trying it out. So hopefully those things are being rewritten in the Act also, so that the participation, and I think Mr. Ahmed can probably reflect on that later on. But I think that aspect is can be strengthened much.
Definitely, I agree with Sejal Rao. Because TPS mechanism is comparatively very old mechanism, and especially in Gujarat, they have evolved the mechanism since last 40-50 years. Subsequently, there are a lot of amendments in the Act, timelines and based, and so many things are improved. So LAP is currently in a way, it's a very nascent stage, and for 10 years we have gone down. The LAP Act is just to pay the Act. So you understand there are a lot of scope for the improvement. These points are very
Cities of India are becoming notorious for unhealthy air, flooding, no drainage systems, traffic jam, you already mentioned. Ahmedabad particularly unbearable heat for most of the year. How are these concerns when how are this central to our town planning for the people already living here, or is it just about creating more vertical FSI and taller buildings? And I don't see any planning of gardens, open spaces, drainage, air quality control, playgrounds. How will it ever be these issues that we as people face? Good quality air, good quality traffic, good quality heat, ecology, playgrounds, open spaces. When will they become central to town?
I think these are very critical issues which you have mentioned, and these should be the central part, rather the start of the thought process for any planning exercise, not only at the area level, such as the TP scheme and the local area plan mechanism, but also at a larger level, first of all, at master plan or the development plan level. So once these issues are largely thought about, then TP and LPs are the mechanism which we will implement the DPs. But to start with, I think we need to every 10 years we prepare the DPs for Ahmedabad as well as for rest of the cities in India, so that those master plans should ideally address these issues of the flooding, of the temperature issues, heat island effects, etc., the permeability aspects, and once these issues are dealt at a larger scale, then definitely the vision can be continued in the local area plan and TP schemes. I think that's the right way of operating.
To some extent, I agree with what you say. But and there is also now the new Aura TP, a big part of that is focusing on climate resilience, blue-green infrastructure, and also the nature-based solutions. But along with that, the parks and playgrounds, the green sponges which should be there. In fact, Aura has been quite efficient in not only appropriating land for that through TP scheme mechanism, but also through a very good cooperation with AMUN, develop and maintain good parks at the neighborhood level. So, Aura through the TP scheme, and this is a very good national practice also, it has been documented. About 85
society of project is sewage pollution created at project level, and then the management that does not happen properly, which adds to the pollution. Secondly, in terms of roads and levels and infrastructure, the stormwater, what happens is that all development does not happen in one go. Actually, the entire utility infrastructure has to go in one go, and then the development of that area has to start. But that is, again, we feel is a limitation of the TP Act, because it is owners based, the process. Where there is an acquisition based model of acquiring a certain area, putting in the bulk infrastructure, all the utilities, and then the occupancy or the development start, there it is maybe easier. Here there are multiple landowners that come into play, and then it's a limitation that comes into play for that. There are examples of district pooling, the first district pooling in CDBC. It is an acquired land. The road, the level, the flooding, the storm water, or the drain, everything is put in place since day one. We don't see any flooding there. We don't see any problem in terms of pollution. And if you see yet it is under development, it will get crowded, but still the AQI levels there would be much lower, or the pollution created in that area would be much lower than the existing schemes and the city that are already developed. Yes, big gap, but we know that the government is doing their efforts in the terms of, say, for example, the Sabarmati riverfront project that was developed. 5 or 6 years back, we were sitting with Nehra, he was a municipal commissioner. We had a Sabarmati cleaning drive. So, NEDA and AMC did together. There were 11 sewage pipes that were directly opening into the riverfront. So, the water quality and the pollution that it may have, was directly getting affected, but nobody. Now, 5 years back, they started. In 1.5 years, they shut down 7 of them, and the plan was to close down the rest of them and divert into the STPs or the central processing units which the government has. Second was for the water. All the lakes in Ahmedabad, west, at least west I know because I work more there, have been interconnected now. Where it does help in a way which we have seen. I'll give you an example because we are a old developer. We have experienced, there is an area near Gurukul, Sarthi Road, if you know, near Gurukul area. If you minus 20 years or 15 years, if there was rain, there was 3 feet of water, and for 3 days it would rain. Today, beyond one point when it pours down heavily, of course it is getting waterlogged, but in 8 hours it is getting cleared. So there is some retro work happening, not that they are not conscious, but yes,